Hello, I'm back for one more Halloween video. Yeah, I know, it's only been an hour or so. But since it's Halloween night, I decided to leave you guys off with a sort of ghost story. As you walk down the streets this night, you're bound to see many ghouls and goblins. But if you're very lucky, you won't run into one of the creatures in my story. I actually encountered one for the first time a few years ago, in October, so I find them very fitting. It's called a Beldam. Now, you may have heard in my videos once or twice that humanity doesn't tend to get along with many supernatural creatures. There's a lot of reasons for that. It's cultural superstitions, tales. No, this one actually got humans and mythical creatures together. Long ago, in the age when magic was powerful and still running wild, there were fairies and all sorts of creatures running around with humanity. They didn't always get together, but there was one creature that rose through all the myths and all the chaos that joined them together. Something that scared both of them. And it's called the Beldam. It's a natural instinct to protect one's young. It's how we keep the species going. It's how pretty much every species goes. But the Beldam, well, the Beldam are not... Honestly, I don't have much to say on the Beldam. The story goes that Beldam take children away, much like changelings or whatever. But this was different. These creatures, they dragged children away. They tricked them. They drew them close. They took them from their homes, where they're never seen again. I'm not sure what happens next. I don't think anyone knows. Some say they were eaten. Some says their soul was torn apart and used for fuel to power their vast magic. And that's what they are. Magical beings, these Beldams. And if you think you haven't heard of them, you probably had, just not in the way you think you have. Remember the story of Hansel and Gretel? Yeah, there are evil witches, but none would be so odd as to create a gingerbread house to lure children. There are much easier ways. The thing is, and this is the stuff that gets weird, Beldams tend to look like women. I mean, there are evil witches. Some stories of evil witches are them. Some are Mab herself. But no, these Beldams often lured children away, tricking them, and who knows doing what to them. And not just human children, other creatures, fairies, pixies, monsters of all sorts. This is what united humanity and the supernatural for one fight. I don't advocate genocide, but I see where they're coming from. For years, they hunted down any sign of Beldams and slaughtered them all across this world, across various dimensions and realms. And that was it. Eventually, they dried up. No more stories of Beldams popped up. And you say, oh, well, that's it, right? End of story. No. These things were vastly powerful. So much so that humanity as a whole stopped telling their names, stopped whispering about them. They were afraid that just invoking their names would bring them back. So much so that they just said witches or stuff, leaving just enough in those fairy tales to warn you about them. And that's how it was. For years, for centuries. Magic began to fade. Most magical creatures faded into other realms. That was it. I barely heard of Beldams. It was just a sort of story I knew. And then that October happened. A child went missing. A baby from a nursery in a hospital. Obviously, people's first reaction was somebody bad. But there was a woman there. A curandera. A medicine woman, if it helps. She walked into the room. It was her grandchild. She felt it when she was there. a hit, like being hit by a wall. Something dark, malevolent in there. She knew it wasn't done. That wasn't done by a human. So she contacted me. Can't say we're friends or anything. She just heard my name tossed around and figured out how to contact me. I'll admit, I'm not the greatest person. I've made my enemies, and I deserve some of those. But I don't like to hear kids going missing. I have a soft spot for kids, what can I tell you? Anyway, as a favor, I decided to go and just check the scene out. I figured, just like the cops, it was probably just an evil person. This woman was just digging too much into it. Boy, I was wrong. I felt that power just lingering there. So I looked around and noted that a few other children had gone missing from hospitals. Some people were saying they were runaways. Some people saying there was feud between parents, things like that. Making their own little stories there, trying to make sense of it all. But I checked the locations and felt that lingering bit of magic. Dark magic, the kind that comes from sacrifice, from pain, from death, from misery. I started to notice a pattern, locations, making a runic shape. So I went to the last hospital that would complete this formation. And I tried to blend in, try to stay out of trouble. But then, before I could really do anything, I felt this, like, weight on me, on my very soul. Something huge and menacing. And I will admit, it made my knees shake, made them buckle. But I raced into the nursery trying to find the baby. Well, I didn't find a baby. I didn't find any babies. They all went missing. And the power was lowering. I was too late. So I rushed outside trying to follow the little bit of magic I was sensing. All I did find was a tree. I didn't know what to make of it. I tried touching the tree, trying to figure out something. There were fruit blossoming from it, right outside this hospital in this little nice sitting area. I grabbed one and I opened it. Just like, it was very tender, soft. So I pulled it out. It was blood, filled with blood. It sickened me, but then they all started blooming and blood trickled down everywhere. And then I got into a bit of trouble. The cops were called. Apparently, the hospital did figure out somebody entered the room. They called the cops, who were on alert because at least one child in the nearby area had gone missing. And there they found me covered in blood. Yeah. There was no good explanation I could give for that one, is there? So they called me into a jail cell, just try to break me, try to make me confess, try to make me talk, try to get under my skin. You know what? Normally I have more tact, but you know what? There were kids missing, they were in danger, and I'm pretty sure a hungry supernatural being is about to do something bad. So, like I said, I'll screw this. Bit of magic, a bit of mojo. I broke their cell wall. Also probably freaked out a bunch of cellmates. Anyway, I did concoct a plan. I saw a map. I saw where the kids had been missing. And knowing about the tree, I started to realize something. The Beldam was near. Its power was seeping into the ground nearby. I don't know why it did a whole loop thing, but it did, and there was the key. I looked for an area nearby where something like this could hide. Oh boy, I found it. A warehouse. When I entered inside, I found children. Babies, toddlers, just little kitties, asleep. And what I can only... How do I describe the undescribable? Consider it an MC Escher nightmare. The room was twisted up and torn apart. The laws of physics, the laws of Euclidean mathematics were, I want to say, thrown in the air, but punched in the face is probably a more accurate statement. Then I found her, the Beldam. Oh boy. Nightmares and fairy tales about witches and evil fairies did not do her justice. She was a macabre thing. Tall, slender, spindly, her hair in tatters, her eyes like stars. And when she looked at you, she saw you. She saw everything that made you. She could. It made me feel small. And then I understood. I understood exactly what I was facing. This was a Beldam. This is why the peoples of various realms who war against each other had fought against these kinds to protect their children. This was the thing that threatened them. This is the thing that now threatened me, and the lives of those children I had now sworn myself to protect. I ran. There's no shame in admitting you ran when you're faced with something like this. I ran around in the room trying to hide. This was her realm. This was her domain. This is her space. She could kill me. But if I kept running, it would make it difficult. For me, at least, I could get by some time and concoct a plan. I would need a distraction. Lucky me, the cops didn't seem to take me breaking their walls all so well. I tend to wear this coat a lot, and that tends to stick out a bit. So they managed to find my description, ask a few people, and saw me running into the warehouse. When they entered, well, they expected to find me, maybe some children. They didn't seem to expect a supernatural heavy hitter. Oh boy, their faces were terrified. But it bought me time. And the Beldam, well, she likes to play games. If you've been asleep for a very long time, well, you might want to play. They fired upon her, but she twisted the world around them, tossing them in the air, bringing out their nightmares. Well, this bought me time, try to make sense of it all. Beldams were supposed to be extinct in all realms. Why was this one here? Hid away. Somehow managed to hide away from everything. How for so long? Something like that would get spotted by some supernatural powerhouse. Then I figured she'd been asleep, hibernating. Maybe that's how she hid. Keep her power absolute low as possible. She wouldn't come up. But here's October, the time of magic and mysteries and the convergence. Well, that could do it. If the energy of the universe, everything collided just right, it might nudge her awake. Maybe some construction was nearby. Maybe somebody cast a wrong spell. But whatever the reason, she woke up. And she hadn't eaten in a while. She wanted to make a feast. These children. I didn't know exactly what that would entail, but I had to figure it out. So, I did my best, scooted the children out. And then I got involved in the firefight. With actual fire. She started raining it down on me. That's what I had to do. I had to get her to use up her magic. Get her pissed. Get her angry. Get her to focus on me. While the cops now led away the children. This isn't so much good luck as talent. I can piss people off something fierce. And I got a bit of my own magic mojo going for me. Here's a space ripped apart at the seams. Bleeding power. I just need to tap into it. Oh boy, that was unsettling. I still don't know exactly how they get this power. I don't know where these Beldams come from. Beldams. But it was dark. It coursed through my blood. Begging for blood. Demanding it. I was able to turn enough of it against her. Enough to distract her. To burn it up. You know the thing about controlling an entire space. Warping reality in such a confined area? You gotta keep it up. You don't keep it up, that's gonna collapse on you. And guess who it collapsed on? So as reality tried to conform back to its natural state, her own power not being enough to hold this state any longer, I ran the hell out of there. Just in time for the building to collapse. And it does have some strain on the physical world. And I quickly hightailed it. The cops had the children. They couldn't really say I was there for several reasons. And they couldn't say a Beldam showed up. They didn't even know what a Beldam was, just some freaky supernatural shit. So, the story got swept away. The families were reunited. And a few nights later, when everything had died down, I checked. I didn't find any body. Maybe there wasn't supposed to. Maybe there wouldn't be a body. But that was it. That was the end. The building crashed. The story said there was a fault line, a crack in the foundation, that things happened just the right way that it collapsed. And luckily nobody was there. Nobody got hurt. The police officers had done a good job, found these various kids over this October season and brought them back home. And I guess that's a happy ending. The family was reunited and hopefully the last Beldam was gone. But I wonder, was it? Was it the last one? Are there a few more somewhere sleeping, waiting to wake up? And what will I do then? Yeah, I really don't know an answer. I am usually very paranoid of these plans, but I got nothing. I kind of got lucky. She was hungry and very well distracted. So, anyway, that should do it for me for Halloween. I've got stuff to do. And I'm sure you do too. Have a happy Halloween and be safe out there.